Sir, I want to thank you for agreeing to sit down with me.
Okay.
And we'll just start at the beginning.
Okay.
How did you come to be in the Army? Did you volunteer or did you enlist?
No, I was drafted.
Okay, and what were you doing before you were drafted?
Well, at the time when the war broke out, I was working in a shoe shop, making shoes, and of course I got started making Army shoes because the war broke out. So I have a brother-in-law. I wasn't a brother-in-law then; he was just a friend. But eventually, I got into the family. I married his sister. So we decided to go to work in a shipyard in Portland, Maine. So we did for probably 5 months, and then President Roosevelt called me, and I was drafted. So I had to go in for September, and I decided, of course, I had to go, so I decided to go home. And my brother-in-law says, well, I'm not staying here by myself. So he decided to come home with me, and he joined the Navy, and I went into the Army. October 8, I was drafted.
Okay, now where did you go to your boot camp?
First of all, I went to Fort Devens in Air Mass, but I didn't stay there too long. I was shipped to Camp Campbell.
And that's where you joined the 12th Armored Division?
That's where we started, yeah. And I remember that night it was pouring, waiting outside for the train. So guess what? We got wet.
So what can you tell me about getting into the Army life from being a civilian working at a shoe shop? How much of a shock was it to you?
Well, it wasn't. Of course, I lived on a farm before, and it was quite different. But I learned to get used to it. I had to. I didn't have no choice. So I did. I got used to it, and I made friends with everybody. And that's the name of the game. You have to. If you don't, you're hurting. So we, first of all, I was thinking of going to an ordnance maintenance, but they shipped me into a medical battalion. So that's where I went. And by the time I got to the medical battalion, I was assigned to company commander driver. So that wasn't a bad deal. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that, and I did that for all through the war almost. I was in the headquarters in B Company. We have a headquarters, and we had the first sergeant and the company commander and a couple other staff sergeants there. But I was assigned to that company to do what I needed to be done, what needed to be done, you know. But I skipped a lot of walks, 25-mile walks, because I had the Jeep and I drove the company commander around, so I didn't have too many big walks. So I kind of appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. So the Tennessee maneuvers probably weren't as hard on you as they were on everybody
No, that
else.
wasn't hard either, because I was assigned to not Imperial, but what did I say? I said that this morning. I forget now. Anyway, I wasn't in the red. I wasn't in the red. I wasn't in the blue. I was. What do you call that?
Observer?
No. I said it this morning. I don't remember. It'll come back, but I don't. But anyway, I was assigned to the blues and the whites, and I mean the blues and the reds, with a major in charge. It bothers me when I can't remember. I don't remember. But anyway, we done that for, I don't remember how many weeks, quite a few weeks. It was a great job. I liked it.
Yeah. So from there to Camp Barkley, Texas.
After that, we moved there. That's right. Matter of fact, they were moving while we were in maneuvers. Some of them were moving already. We were at Camp Barkley, and that was a great big camp. But it was basically the same as Tennessee, but that's where we did all our training there in 44, and then we went embarkation and we went to Europe, to England. We went to England. We stayed there for, we got there in early September and we left in October, early October, about a month, 5 or 6 weeks. So we crossed the channel, went into Le Havre, into the Seine River, and that's where combat started. We didn't go into combat right away. We had to wait for orders, and because at that time the Germans were losing grounds, and it went on.
Now, you talked about being spared most of the trouble because of being a driver. Did you have any combat experiences?
Well, not really, because I was in the medical battalion. I had combat experience from the engineers, from the tank battalion, because we were following them, and we were at the tail end of them to clean up whoever needed help, you know. But front lines, sometimes we were in the front lines, we didn't even realize it, because they were going so fast at the end, and they were advancing like 50, 60 miles a day, which is a lot in combat. But you could tell the Germans were losing because they were giving up, and we had a lot of prisoners. So.
Now, talking about dealing with the Germans, your encounters with them, especially as prisoners, how did you find them? You know, in terms of dealing with them as soldiers versus just someone you'd meet on the street.
I don't quite follow you.
Oh, well, actually, let me just step back one from there. When it comes to going through England and France,
right,
the civilian populace, how did you interact with them at all, or did you have much chance to meet anybody over there?
Oh, we did, because we had passes. We could go to London, and we did some visitations. You know, not too much, but we did. We were about 20 miles from where we were stationed, about 20 miles from London, so we had a chance to do a little visiting, and the people were great. Yeah, they were great. Of course, we went there as a group, you know, like 3 or 4 guys together, and so we went to some movies, you know, like they were having movies, and I stayed there one time. I stayed there because the hotel where we were living, staying, one section of it had been bombed out by the Germans. So matter of fact, one section there we could see daylight because the roof was all gone, but we managed to have a room anyway. That was our experience. Then we did, not too far from there was a 500-pound bomb that didn't detonate. It was still on the sidewalk next to the road. And I guess they deactivated it and stayed there as a souvenir from the Germans. Lucky they didn't blow off.
Now, when you got into France, did you have time to meet any of the locals or sightsee or form any friendships there?
Not France, not so much as Germany we did. France were kind of on a go because while the war was coming to an end, we didn't know that at the time, but the Germans were pushing back to their country in Berlin, not Berlin, but Germany. So we had to, of course, the I don't know what company was doing it, but it's probably the engineer or the infantry, I don't know, because they had prisoners of war. Of course, they were walking on the road. And so from there on, a couple of times we had rest periods while we were in Germany, because we had been at it for 2 or 3 weeks, and usually they take it if they find a time to have a rest period. We do that. So we enjoyed that. So we had a little champagne and schnapps and whatever there was. We ran into that quite a few times. During combat, I don't remember what part, but in Germany we found some caves that was occupied by the Germans, and they had put a lot of liquor in there, wine and champagne, and whatever you could encounter, you know. So we managed to get a few cases of those, but the company commander was on our tail. He says, "No drinking while in combat," because too bad. So anyway, I had a half track at the time, and I had a lot of compartments under the seat, so I had stashed 2 or 3 bottles, you know, but I didn't pad them too much. And during combat, not during combat, but while we were on the move, some of those bottles broke, so that didn't set too well with the company commander. So we explained to them what happened, and he took that as a yes, because we knew damn well we wouldn't be drinking. We had done enough before that.
Now, once in Germany and dealing with the German civilian populace, especially as a medic, being in a medical battalion, how did you find your interaction with them? Were they glad to see you, or were they?
Some were, and some didn't, because Hitler had propaganda. You know, be careful, the Army, the United States Army, watched for their men because they would rape their women and all that, but that wasn't so. That was just propaganda. But a lot of them believed it. They were scared. Yeah.
In the push through Germany, did you have occasion to help in the liberation of the camps?
We did. Dachau. We did. We had part of that because we happened to be going in there, but we didn't do too much because quartermaster in back of us was kind of taking care of all that. So we weren't allowed to stop and fraternize with them, and even though some of those were American prisoners, but it was sad to see them. A lot of them were skinny, and you can tell they hadn't been eating, drinking, and they're in pretty bad shape.
Now, what did that do to your attitude, having seen that as you were pressing?
Well, you know, at first we didn't believe all that, what we were seeing, because a lot of it was going on while we were in combat. We didn't know. We didn't know all that. We found out after we got into Germany and experienced some of that. We found out that it was true. And a lot of people here in the States didn't believe all that either, you know.
Very good. Now, where were you when the war ended?
We were heading for Austria because we were meeting our troops coming from Italy over the Alps, and that's where the war ended, at the bottom of the Alps in Germany, Austria. We were hoping to be able to go there, but it happened just right.
Okay. After the end of the war, how long did you have to stay in Europe to get your points to get home?
Well, I stayed Army occupation because the war ended in May 5th, I think, May 5th. And I didn't have quite enough points. I had 3 or 4 points missing, or 5 points missing. So we were in Army occupation. We were in Rüsselsheim, Germany, which is probably east of Frankfurt. We weren't too far from Frankfurt, about 25, 30 miles. So it was great. We lived in the civilian houses, so we had to place these people in schools and stuff, you know. So we had the privilege of using their homes, and they had chickens there and gardens in the back, so we had a chance to enjoy that. I think we deserved that. So I'm sure they weren't too pleased about it, but they had to get used to it. We used to go to, they used to have soccer ball games. We used to go to that. We had a field not too far from here in Rüsselsheim, so We enjoyed it while we were there. We had a friend of mine. Him and somebody else in the maintenance, they managed to put up a Jeep at the time. We had the engine, we had the body, but we had a lot of parts missing. So with their technology, we managed to, into depots, we managed to get the rest of the parts a little bit at a time. So we had a Jeep that wasn't assigned to the U.S. government; it was ours. So of course we left it there when we couldn't bring it back, but we were having fun with it. There's some wheels anyway.
So when did you come back to the States?
I come back. We left there. It was we were supposed to come back here for the holidays in '45, Christmas, and we left there to go. We went to Marseille, France. That's where we were taking the ship, because that was about the closest place to be picked up. But in the meantime, there happened to be a strike, a ship strike. So we weren't destined to go right away because the ship strike wasn't over yet. So we stayed here in Marseille. They managed to put us up in Marseille, so we did that, and we had a chance to visit Marseille, few churches, you know, they have big churches there. And in February, that's when we left. A while before February, because it took us 12 days to come back. It was in January, late January. So we backed the ship and we came back to the States. And we got here, well, I was discharged February 8th, so we had to be, I don't remember the place where we were discharged, in New Jersey somewhere. So then we had to come back here to Fort Devens. Then we were released. It's funny, that's 63 years ago, you know, 64 years ago. It's hard to remember everything. You kind of lose it.
Speaking of which, is there anything else that stands out that you'd like to bring up? Anything in terms of the people or friends or anything you'd like to just throw in there?
Well, I had friends that we visited a few times in New Jersey, and we stayed close with them. They came over and visited us during the summer, but they both passed away. Most of them are passed away. Luckily, that whatever wood is, lucky that I'm still around.
I want to thank you, sir, for agreeing to sit down and talk to me, and I'll be able to put it on the web, and future historians can look at this.
Oh, great! That'd be
you,
great.
sir.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah.